Listen closely now, for this is the tale of Lila, the small girl with bright, curious eyes and a spirit that shimmered like sunlight on water. She lived in a peaceful village nestled beside a forest so ancient its roots seemed to hold memories of forgotten worlds. The forest was full of whispers. Some said the trees spoke at night. Others claimed they had seen lights dancing between the branches. Most villagers kept their distance, but Lila felt drawn to it, as though the wind called her by name. She often wandered near the forest's edge, toes brushing soft grass, letting the hum of unseen magic settle around her. With her came Pip, a lively little bird famous for mimicking voices perfectly, sometimes startling people so much they nearly dropped their baskets. Lila loved Pip dearly, even when his mischief earned them disapproving looks from the baker or the potter. Their days were simple: morning chores, laughter from the marketplace, the smell of warm bread drifting through the air. But one evening, everything changed. As the sun slipped behind the hills, a strange darkness stirred in the forest. It wasn't the natural kind that comes with nightfall. It slithered, curled, and breathed like something alive. Leaves wilted at its touch. Animals bolted in fear. Even the wind grew cold and uneasy. From her window, Lila watched the forest glow faintly under the moon. Something inside her tightened, a mix of fear and a strange pull she didn't understand. Pip hopped anxiously on the windowsill, feathers puffed. That night, Lila dreamed. In her dream stood Elder Oak, the oldest, tallest tree known in legends. Its bark shimmered with patterns of ancient magic, and its voice echoed like a warm drumbeat. Lila, the forest is calling for help. You are the one it trusts. She woke with her heart racing. The darkness outside felt heavier now, spreading with purpose. She didn't know it yet, but the path before her had already begun to unfold. A path filled with wonders and dangers, choices and courage. A path that would test everything she believed about herself. And Pip, loyal as ever, was ready to follow her into whatever tomorrow might bring. The village slept peacefully that night, unaware that their safety now rested in the hands of one girl who had always believed the forest whispered only to her. Dawn rose softly the next morning, painting the rooftops gold, but it brought no comfort to the villagers. The darkness in the forest had crept closer overnight, and a nervous hush hung over the air. Farmers whispered to one another. Mothers pulled their children indoors earlier than usual. Even the elders gathered in a circle, brows furrowed with worry. Lila stood among them, listening. Though she tried to hide it, her hands trembled. She felt as if the forest's whispers were now inside her heart, quiet but steady, urging her forward. Pip perched on her shoulder, unusually silent, as though he too sensed what was coming. When the elders spoke of sealing off the forest path, Lila's breath caught. She knew, with a certainty she couldn't explain, that closing the forest wouldn't stop the spreading darkness. It would only slow it, and every moment wasted would endanger the village she loved. That evening, as villagers gathered around the central fire, Elder Mira, the oldest woman in the village, asked for quiet. "Something ancient stirs in the forest," she said. "We do not know its purpose, but we know its danger." Lila swallowed hard. Elder Mira's voice was steady, but her eyes, deep and wise, flicked briefly toward Lila, as if she saw something hidden beneath the girl's trembling courage. Later, when the fire crackled low and the crowd dispersed, Lila slipped away toward the forest's edge. Pip fluttered beside her. She pressed her palm against the bark of a sturdy oak. It felt warm, alive, as though it recognized her. The forest rustled gently, a calming sound amid the surrounding fear. Then, like a breeze that carried meaning, she heard it again. Lila. Not a voice spoken aloud, but a whisper inside her thoughts. Familiar, ancient, calling her by name. She stepped back, breath shaking. The dream, elder oak's shimmering bark, the message that had felt so real. Was it truly a dream or a warning? Before she could decide, roots beneath her feet glowed faintly, tracing symbols she didn't recognize. Pip chirped in alarm, but Lila felt no fear. Instead, something inside her settled, a deep, quiet knowing. She turned back toward the village, her decision forming like a flame catching fire. She would go into the forest. She would find Elder Oak, and she would discover what the darkness wanted. Whatever awaited her, she would face it. Not because she was brave, but because she was needed. At sunrise, Lila packed a small satchel, bread, water, a scarf woven by her mother, and a smooth pebble she had carried since she was little, a lucky charm, she hoped. Pip fluttered anxiously, but when she tied the satchel closed, he hopped onto her shoulder with a determined chirp. He would not let her go alone. Lila slipped through the quiet village, heart pounding. She paused once, looking back at the familiar rooftops, the market stalls, the chimney where the baker's smoke usually curled. Everything seemed peaceful, but fragile, as though one strong breath from the forest might shatter it all. She stepped into the woods. Instantly, the air changed. It felt cooler, richer, humming with life unseen. Sunlight filtered through tall branches, scattering golden patterns along the ground. The forest whispered, not in words, but in gentle sounds like a welcome. Lila exhaled slowly. Somehow, she felt safer inside the forest than outside it. Pip, though, chirped nervously at every rustling leaf. They walked deeper, passing glowing mushrooms that pulsed softly, tiny lights dancing above them like floating sparks. Strange plants shifted their colors as Lila approached. At one point, a cluster of fluttering petals lifted from the ground like butterflies, circling her before drifting away. It was beautiful, magical even, but Lila couldn't forget why she was here. The air suddenly dimmed. The brightness faded into a violet twilight, though the sun was still rising outside. Pip froze. Lila felt her steps slow. Ahead, the path split into 3 twisting trails. At the center stood a stone figure carved into the shape of a forest spirit. Moss covered its face, but its eyes glowed faintly. A soft hum filled the air. Then the statue spoke, its voice deep, like shifting earth. Only those who listen may pass. Choose the true path. 3 trails, 1 choice. Lila closed her eyes. She listened. Not with her ears, but with the quiet place inside her heart where Elder Oak's whisper lingered. To the left, silence. To the right, distant rustling. Straight ahead, a faint pulse, soft, rhythmic, familiar. She stepped forward. The statue's eyes brightened before fading back into stillness. She'd chosen correctly. As Lila and Pip continued, the forest grew stranger. Vines curled like living snakes. Trees leaned closer as if watching. And far ahead, like a smudge against the vibrant colors, lay a patch of darkness, quiet, waiting. Lila straightened her shoulders. The real journey had begun. The deeper Lila traveled, the heavier the air became. The forest's colors dimmed. The glowing mushrooms flickered. Even Pip, normally bursting with energy, stayed tucked close to her neck, feathers tight with unease. They reached a clearing where the trees bent backward, their branches twisted as though something had pushed them away from a central point. Lila stepped carefully, each footfall echoing unnaturally. The ground felt colder here. At the center lay the darkness she had glimpsed earlier, now much larger. It wasn't just a shadow. It pulsed like a living thing, rising and falling as though breathing. Pip gave a sharp warning chirp. The darkness stirred. Shapes formed within it, shifting, crawling. A voice seeped out, low, echoing, like wind through a cave. "Turn back." Lila felt her knees tremble. The voice pressed against her chest, heavy and suffocating. She swallowed, trying to steady her breath. I can't," she whispered, though her voice barely carried. "My village is in danger." The shadow rose higher, stretching into a tall, wavering figure. Two hollow eyes opened, glowing with cold light. "You are small," it said. "You are weak. You will fail." Lila stepped back instinctively. The words pierced straight into her deepest fear. She was small. She did doubt herself more than anyone knew. And the shadow felt those fears as though they were its own. The creature leaned closer. "Leave before I consume everything you love." Something inside Lila cracked, not in fear, but in defiance. She thought of the villagers, of Pip, of Elder Oak's dream message, and she remembered something her mother once told her. Courage isn't about never being afraid, it's about choosing to move anyway. She clenched her fists. "I'm not turning back." The shadow hissed, pulling itself tall. Lila braced herself. But before the creature could strike, a sudden glow erupted behind her. Roots burst from the ground, swirling with golden light, forming a barrier between Lila and the wraith. Elder Oak's voice echoed gently. "Not yet, little one. Your spirit is not ready." The shadow recoiled, shrieking as the light pushed it back. When the glow faded, the clearing was silent again. Lila collapsed to her knees, breath shaking. Pip rushed to her shoulder, chirping frantically. She looked at the forest around her, now dim and wounded. She had seen the darkness, and the darkness had seen her. And she knew the hardest part of her journey was still ahead. Night approached, but the forest kept a soft, silvery glow as though trying to comfort Lila after what she had just faced. Her limbs still trembled, and her thoughts spun wildly. For the first time since leaving home, she wondered if the shadow had been right. Maybe she wasn't strong enough. Pip nudged her cheek gently and mimicked a soft, encouraging whistle, one her father used to hum while fixing tools. The familiar sound brought warmth to Lila's chest. She stood and pressed onward. Soon she reached a grove unlike anything she'd seen before. Leaves shimmered like tiny mirrors, reflecting memories instead of light. When she stepped closer, one leaf glowed brighter and displayed a vision of her younger self, trying to help villagers carry pots, failing, dropping one, crying while people whispered she wasn't ready for big tasks. Lila winced. The forest wasn't cruel. It was showing her what she needed to face. Another leaf shimmered. This one showed her standing outside the forest days ago, staring into the trees with fear, yet refusing to walk away. She watched both visions slowly fade. A voice resonated through the grove, soft, warm, ancient. You carry doubt, but you also carry hope. Elder oak emerged from the shadows, its bark glowing with swirling symbols. Its branches bent gently, like arms welcoming a child home. "Why me?" Lila whispered, tears threatening. "I'm not brave. I'm not strong." Elder Oak's voice rumbled kindly. "Strength is not measured by size. Bravery is not found in loud hearts, but in steady ones." Lila wiped her cheeks as the tree continued. "The shadow wraith feeds on fear. It grows where doubt lives. But you, Lila, you listen, you feel, you care. That is why the forest chose you." The grove brightened, leaves fluttered down, landing softly in Lila's palms. They glowed, then dissolved into golden particles that sank into her skin. Warmth spread through her body, calming, strengthening, awakening something quietly powerful. Elder Oak bowed its branches. "Now you are ready." Lila nodded, determination igniting like a spark catching flame. She turned toward the direction where the shadow had retreated. Pip flapped his wings fiercely. The forest around her hummed with support. This time, she felt no tremble in her steps. She would face the shadow wraith again, and she would not run. Lila and Pip approached the clearing where the shadow first appeared. The darkness lingered, thicker now, like a storm gathering strength. But the light within Lila pulsed steadily, guiding her forward. The shadow wraith rose tall, towering above her, eyes blazing cold light. "You have returned," it hissed. "Foolish girl." Lila lifted her chin. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." The wraith lunged, tendrils whipping through the air. Lila dodged, the golden glow from Elder Oak's blessing shimmering around her like a shield. Pip swooped overhead, distracting the creature with sharp mimic cries. The wraith snarled, striking again. But Lila pressed her palms to the ground. The light within her shot through the earth, rising as swirling vines and radiant roots that coiled around the darkness. The creature shrieked, writhing. "You cannot defeat fear," it roared. Lila stepped closer. "Maybe not, but I can choose not to feed it." Her voice rang strong. The vines brightened, glowing brighter, brighter, until they burst with a blinding wave of light. The shadow wraith dissolved into fading wisps, scattered like smoke in wind. Silence. Then, the forest exhaled. Colors returned, leaves straightened, flowers opened in sudden bloom. The ground beneath Lila's feet warmed with life. Pip landed on her shoulder, chirping triumphantly. A soft glow appeared, Elder Oak's spirit shining gently. "Well done," it whispered. "You have brought balance once more." Lila smiled, breath full and steady. "I didn't do it alone." Light shimmered around her as the forest bowed its branches, grateful. By the time Lila reached the village again, the morning sun was rising. Villagers gasped as they saw the forest glowing behind her, healthy, alive, restored. Children ran to her. Elders stared in awe. Her parents embraced her in shaking arms. For the first time, Lila felt something she had never felt before: confidence. She had faced darkness, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she cared enough to act anyway. And as she stood at the village edge, Pip chirping proudly, she knew this journey was only the beginning. The forest had chosen her, and she would forever listen to its whispers.